I couldn't believe what I was seeing that morning. I rolled up to my own home, only to find my reserved disabled parking space completely blocked off by none other than the HOA president herself, a woman in the neighborhood we all know as Karen. She stood there, arms crossed, acting like she owned the whole street. Now, I don't like confrontation, but this wasn't just any parking spot. As a disabled vet, that space isn't just convenient, it's necessary. I tried to explain calmly, but she wasn't having any of it. Instead, she doubled down, shouting about rules she made up on the spot, ignoring both common sense and the actual law. Little did she know, I had a wild card up my sleeve, my longtime friend, a local sheriff, who just so happens to be my old buddy from our days serving in Vietnam. One quick call and he was on his way. You could feel the tension hanging thick in the air as Karen kept ranting, totally unaware that the situation was about to take a serious turn. And let me tell you, when my buddy pulled up, it wasn't just a friendly visit. What happened next had the whole neighborhood peeking through their curtains, and Karen finally realizing she had messed with the wrong guy. Now, let me back it up a little so you understand just how crazy this situation really was. I've lived in this neighborhood for over 10 years. I followed every rule, paid every HOA fee, and never caused any trouble. That disabled parking spot, it wasn't just something I painted myself, it was officially approved by the city, with all the paperwork filed and the signs posted clear as day. Karen, though, she was new to the HOA board. Ever since she got a little bit of power, she thought she could make up her own laws, like she ran a private kingdom or something. She had been nitpicking little things around the neighborhood for months. Letters about wrong shade of paint on mailboxes, threatening fines for unauthorized flowers, even measuring people's grass with a ruler. But this time she went way too far. Blocking a disabled space isn't just rude, it's against the law. I could tell she wasn't going to back down easy either. She had that look in her eyes, like she was daring me to do something about it. Meanwhile, I was standing there, feeling the stares from neighbors across the street. They all knew what was at stake, but no one wanted to step in. And just as the sheriff's car turned the corner, the real showdown was about to begin. The sheriff's cruiser came rolling down the street slow, lights off but the presence heavy. Karen must have thought it was backup for her because she stood up straighter and gave me this smug little smirk. She had no idea the man stepping out of that car wasn't just any officer. It was Bobby, my old war buddy. We had each other's backs halfway across the world, and now somehow, fate had lined it up so he had mine again, right here at home. Bobby walked up, cool and calm, surveying the situation. Karen immediately launched into her version of the story, full of half-truths and made-up HOA rules. She even waved around a clipboard like it meant something. I just stood there, letting her dig herself deeper, knowing Bobby wasn't the type to be fooled by a clipboard or some fancy words. As she ranted, neighbors started creeping out onto their porches, phones in hand, recording every second. Word travels fast when there's HOA drama, especially when the sheriff shows up. Meanwhile, the tension was thick. Bobby asked a few simple questions, but Karen wouldn't stop interrupting, getting more flustered by the second. I caught glimpses of other neighbors whispering to each other, some shaking their heads, others just wide-eyed, wondering how far Karen was willing to push it. What nobody expected, though, was how far she actually would go, and how badly it was about to backfire. Karen's voice kept getting louder, hands flailing in the air like she was putting on some kind of show. She even pointed a finger right in Bobby's face, demanding he enforce HOA rules and fine me for harassment. You could tell Bobby was trying to stay professional, but I saw that little twitch in his jaw, the same one I saw back in Vietnam whenever things were about to get real. He asked her again, calm as ever, if she understood that blocking a legally designated disabled parking space was a violation of city law. Karen just scoffed, waving it off like it was some silly technicality. She even had the nerve to claim I** forged the disabled signs, even though they were stamped and certified by the city itself. That's when Bobby's entire stance shifted. It was subtle, but if you knew him like I did, You'd recognize it. He was done playing games. The whole street felt like it was holding its breath. More neighbors had gathered now, phones recording from every angle, whispers filling the air like static. Karen, still thinking she was untouchable, doubled down, refusing to move her car and even threatening Bobby, saying she would have him reported to the HOA board. That was her biggest mistake yet. And just when it felt like things couldn't get any tenser, Bobby reached for something on his belt, and that's when everything changed. Bobby's hand hovered near his belt, but instead of pulling out handcuffs like everyone thought, he pulled out his radio. He called in for backup. That's when Karen's confidence started to crack. She stumbled over her words, trying to laugh it off, claiming it was all just a misunderstanding. But it was too late for that. Bobby stayed calm, professional, but you could feel the shift. This wasn't a neighborhood argument anymore. It was an official police matter. Just as the second patrol car turned onto the street, tires crunching slow over the pavement, Karen's husband showed up. He came running out of their house, still in slippers, waving papers in his hand. He shouted that they had special permission from the HOA to block spaces if they felt it was necessary. Bobby didn't even blink. He asked for the paperwork, took one glance at it, and handed it right back. It was just a printed email. No signatures, no city approvals, nothing legal about it. The neighbors gasped. Phones zoomed in closer. Karen was practically vibrating with anger now, her face red, yelling about corruption and favoritism. Her husband tried to get between her and Bobby, but that only made things worse. Bobby stepped forward, voice firm but even, and told them both that if they didn't move the car immediately, legal action would be taken. And just when you thought Karen might finally give up, she did something so shocking it made the whole crowd take a step back. Right when everyone thought Karen might finally back down, she did the unthinkable. She grabbed Bobby's arm. It wasn't some little tap, either. She yanked at him, shouting that he had no authority on HOA property. You could almost hear a pin drop across the whole street. For a moment, even Bobby looked stunned. Then, in one smooth motion, he stepped back, pulled out his handcuffs, and calmly told Karen she was being detained for obstructing law enforcement and for illegally blocking a disabled parking space. Karen's face went from red to white in a second flat. Her husband started yelling, but the second officer who had just arrived stepped in and held him back. Bobby cuffed her right there in front of everyone, and believe me, every single phone in the neighborhood caught it. As he read her rights, Karen kept insisting she was the real victim, blaming me, blaming the city, even blaming the corrupt HOA. It was a full meltdown, and there was no walking it back. As they led her to the cruiser, something even crazier happened. The HOA vice president, who nobody had seen all morning, showed up waving an official-looking letter. Turns out, the board had already voted Karen out 2 days ago because of too many complaints. She wasn't even the HOA president anymore. She had been acting on power she didn't even have. As they led her to the cruiser, something even crazier happened. The HOA vice president, who nobody had seen all morning, showed up waving an official-looking letter. Turns out, the board had already voted Karen out 2 days ago because of too many complaints. She wasn't even the HOA president anymore. She had been acting on power she didn't even have. After Karen was driven off in the back of the sheriff's car, the whole neighborhood seemed to finally breathe again. People came over, patting me on the back, some even apologizing for not stepping in sooner. It was clear that this wasn't just about a parking space anymore. It was about standing up for what's right, especially when folks try to abuse power. My disabled parking space was cleared within the hour, and Bobby made sure the city put up even bigger, brighter signs just to make sure it never happened again. The HOA vice president personally apologized to me, explaining that Karen had been causing chaos for months, and they were just too slow to act. Turns out, there were dozens of complaints filed, everything from harassment over lawn decorations to threatening letters about unauthorized garden hoses. It felt good to know it wasn't just me she targeted, but it also showed how important it is to speak up when things aren't right. As for Bobby and me, we ended the crazy day the best way we knew how, sitting on my porch, laughing over old war stories with a couple of cold drinks. Life has a funny way of circling back, and I couldn't be more thankful that an old Vietnam buddy had my six once again, right when I needed it most.